All right, here we go. Welcome everybody. Me joined with Mets Talk with Hayden. We're here. We're chilling. We're just hoping to get through this rain delay, and I think everyone's excited for some Game Five ALDS. I guess it is. We're gonna go. Thought I'd have a little chance here to talk with Hayden. Maybe talk about a little bit about his Mets. I know you guys are all eager to figure out what happened there, and we're waiting for his video. I just was giving him some gears about that. We'll probably go over NLCS and stuff like that, and kind of just talk baseball. If anyone joins, maybe questions, answers, fun stuff like that. Otherwise, I think we're just gonna keep it, I don't know, short little conversation on what's going on around the MLB. So, welcome Hayden. I haven't had a guest video in a long time. It's usually around hockey, and it's usually my main man, Mr. Maverick. So, thought we should switch it up with some baseball. How you doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I appreciate you having me on. Definitely, it's been rough. I don't know, last week and couple days for the New York Mets. I've definitely been trying to cope with this unfortunate loss. It's not easy though, but we'll find a way. And hey, there's 123 days till pitchers and catchers report, so we'll count down
We'll
those
find a way.
days.
That's awesome. That's awesome, but not awesome. You know what I mean? You're already counting down the days. I'm right there with you. Of course, the Blue Jays lost. They lost in less games. Let's be honest. It's pretty much in Toronto land. We're pretty much comparing it. I don't know how much hockey you follow, but to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are kings of choking, and the Jays were right up there with them as well. So I guess we're both in familiar ground at this point. Moving on to hopefully watch some good baseball down the stretch. And yeah, sitting here in a Game 5 delay, and it's pretty much the only game on tonight. And I know I picked the Guardians to win this series. Got a lot of hate for that, so I'm kind of eager to see that one come to fruition so I can do a little dance. But pretty much all I got going on. Maybe for people that don't know much about you that have watched me a lot, maybe give a short, brief introduction of kind of what your channel is all about. And Mets Talk with Hayden. I put the link in the description below for you guys. You can follow him, subscribe to him. He has great live streams a couple times a week during the season for sure. And yeah, just maybe give us a quick rundown of your channel, what you like to talk about, maybe what got you into baseball, a little bit about you. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so if you guys do not know me, my name is Hayden. Channel is Mets Talk with Hayden. I am one of the biggest diehard Met fans out there. Definitely during their highs, lows, I'm always passionate, always knowledgeable. Yeah, overall, like I said, on a YouTube channel, Mets Talk with Hayden. Like I said, during the regular season, I like to do live streams in regards to the series preview, series recap. So previewing and summarizing what went wrong, the good, the ugly, and the bad, as I like to call it. Predictions, all that great stuff, analysis, obviously Q&A. Like to get a lot of my viewers involved, so it's a great way to interact with people. So yeah, definitely if you guys would like to check me out, that'd be very much awesome. I would really appreciate that. I know it says Mets talk, but in reality, it's really baseball talk. I mean, we have Blue Jays fans, Rays fans,
Yeah, I'll just jump
Dodger
in
fans.
there
We
and
have it all on
say
the
in
channel.
your live streams, there's people asking all sorts of questions. You have
Yeah,
very good baseball knowledge all around, so you're
yeah,
able to field that, and I know you like to look at some of the trade possibilities
yeah,
too and stuff like that. So definitely baseball all around.
absolutely. Yeah, and in terms of how I became a Met fan, I mean, it's been quite a minute. I was born 2002. So I'm gonna be 21 coming January. Really, how I became a Met fan, it's really kind of just something that I say I really don't know. I just all of a sudden just started following the team. I mean, we're talking back to the '06 Beltran, Delgado, right, Reyes squad, and here we are with Alonso, McNeil, Lindor squad. So definitely been a Met fan for quite a while. Through the highs, through the lows, through the mediocre times, and yeah, future's looking bright. Got new ownership, competent GM, competent front office, and here we are.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny. And you mentioned Delgado, and right when I started liking the Blue Jays is like when Delgado was like in his prime with the Blue Jays. It's probably what 5, 6, 7 years before that. But it's funny
Yeah,
how that works. And the Mets and the Jays always have this like interesting relationship, at least over the past decade with like so many different players kind of went from you guys to us, and you guys got us some of our prospects where you saw come up like Syndergaard and stuff. So it was always that fun, entertaining, little mixed, both Eastern Conference teams, and it seems like we both got into baseball at such a young age. It just kind of happened, right? And for me, it's the same kind of story. So that's really cool. So let's move on. Do you want to talk about your Mets early, or do you want to hold that and let's talk about this game 5 first?
I think we should talk about the game 5.
Yeah, all right. The game 5, I think that's what everyone out there is waiting for, and by the time it gets started, have you been following like these series super close, or?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you guys an analysis to an extent. So obviously tonight's starters are Aaron Savali and Jameson Taillon.
Yeah.
Obviously two. Pretty much this is game 5, so they are going to need their absolute best from both Savali and Jameson Taillon. Really, overall, when it comes to this series, it's really been a mix. Obviously, both of these teams have kind of kept the scoring intact. A lot of 4-2 games. Obviously, obviously 3 of these games have ended in a 4 opposing lead. So, for the most part, pitching has definitely dominated. Obviously, Garrett Cole having 2 phenomenal appearances. Obviously, game 1 really pitched his heart out. And then once again, in yesterday's game, a start that was not projected to be Garrett Cole. Obviously, going on, I believe it was only 4 days rest. He went out, got the ball, and threw 110 pitches. So Garrett Cole, by far, is having a phenomenal postseason, much better than, obviously, last year's against Boston. Obviously, Cole so far, basic stats, 2-0, the 2.03 ERA. Keeping his stuff intact. Long ball hasn't been an issue. Strikeouts have been there. His pitches are nasty. A lot of swinging and misses. Guardians lineup is chasing, and this is a Guardians lineup that is great with contact. They have one of the highest contact percentages in baseball, and Garrett Cole is just making them go out there for 2 games and look silly. And obviously, the other 2 games have been started by obviously Taillon once again, and kind of a bullpen matchup. And Yankees pitching, I would say so far, has been doing a pretty good job. I guess when it comes to the Yankees, the only unfortunate is Aaron Judge. Obviously, Aaron Judge has been having a really rough postseason. He's getting booed. Who would have thought the dude that broke Roger Maris's record would get booed in the postseason? Really had a really rough postseason to start off. Obviously, he went like 0 for 18 at one point.
That's such this downside to postseason is it's such a small sample, and as baseball fans, we know that that can happen. The best players in the world are going to do that. I agree. It's unfortunate that they're booing them for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, situations like that. I mean, that's really how it's gonna go. I mean, like I said, it's hit or miss. Completely different scenario. Completely different ball game.
Yeah, it's do or die tonight. I'm with you. Garrett Cole, they finally got what they paid for with him. He delivered when it mattered in those 2 games for sure. It's the one concern for me coming into this series was whether the bats on the Yankee side would be able to deliver. And so far, they've had some timely hitting and they've gotten the wins. But I'm still waiting for that, like you talked about, Aaron Judge, all the rest of them just piling on. Maybe this is the game where they all come out to play. And if not, we're going to see the Guardians throw out their best stuff tonight. I think Bieber's probably going to come in if it's close enough and they have a 1-run lead or stuff like that. We're going to see everything they got in the kitchen sink from both sides, of course, come to it. So, who are you leaning at this point? What do you kind of expect to see in this game 5?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this game 5 is really going to be do or die for the most part. Obviously, biggest matchups from both of these starters. Biggest thing is going to be if guys like Judge are going to really break out. Obviously, Judge, he's batting second, like I said. Really rough postseason so far. Once again, Stanton, too. The bats have been really quiet for a lot of this Yankees team. Obviously, Yankees are taking a really big gamble on obviously starting Oswaldo Cabrera at shortstop over Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Obviously, I guess they kind of got over his bat, but really not over his glove, surprisingly. But like I said, a lot of this Yankees team, I mean, Judge, 125, Stanton, 83. This Yankees team has really not been producing. Their pitching has been really breaking them out of these jams. And then, I mean, you look at this Guardians team. This Guardians team is really, really hitting well. I mean, obviously, you look at the young talent they have, and Andres Jimenez, and then obviously, guys like Stephen Kwan, and even some of their older guys, whether that's Ahmed Rosario or Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. The long ball has really been what determines this series, and I think all baseball postseason this year, we've seen home run after home run after home run. We don't see a whole lot of walks, base hits, driving in runners casually like that. And I guess that's really the hard thing about the postseason is that, pretty much a drive and a run, you're going to need 3 hits at least, maybe 2. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a long ball. I read something saying like 62 or something percent of the runs have been driven in via home run, and that's just mind-boggling. So Yankees are a heavy home run, heavy strikeout team. Guardians not so much. Guardians are very contact-oriented, one of the highest contact percentages in the league, but they're still getting bat-to-ball contact, driving the ball, and things will happen. So really, the biggest thing for tonight is going to be how long Savali and Taillon can go for both of their starters, and really, I guess whoever scores first, in my opinion, is probably
Yeah.
gonna have that advantage.
It's funny you talk about the home run ball. I forget the right stat off the top of my head, but they were showing it at the beginning of the postseason in one of the games how the team that hits the most home runs in the series won. I almost think it was 100% over the past couple of years. It might have been high 90%. Whoever hits the most home runs in the series wins the series. No big surprise there because every run matters so much in such a tight postseason. Definitely in a 5-game set. Anything can go, and I'm with you. Whichever starter can give their team the best chance to win coming out of this, I think is going to be it's going to make the difference. I wouldn't be surprised if both these starters though are out in the 4th inning or earlier, depending on what we see. If it's 0-0 and we're in the 4th inning and Taillon gives up a hit, he's probably coming out, kind of thing. So it's going to be this is kind of what I love so much about baseball is these tight matches. It's like a intricate game of chess. Every pitch matters. Every ball strike just changes the whole outlook of the game, the kind of pitches that we're going to see and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see Game 5. Game 5 is always fun, much like Game 7. I'm going to go out here. I got to say it. Right now, the Yankees are mad favorites in this game. They're minus 160, but I got to just stick with my gut coming into this series. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Guardians are going to win this one. It's going to be a very low-scoring game. I got it at 3-2, I think, is going to be the score.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, if Savali and Taillon could stay in for at least 5 innings, I mean, obviously the bullpen is going to be working, going to be hot. It's elimination for both of these teams. So
Yep.
obviously you do have the off day, I believe, tomorrow for both of these squads. So there's really no worry when it comes to that.
Yep.
I As much as I hate the Yankees, I'm still going to go with it. I'm going to go Guardians, take it 3-1.
Okay, so I thought you were gonna say the Yankees. As much as I hate the Yankees, I'm gonna pick the Yankees, but no.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could make a case for them, but
Yeah,
we'll see my bias
just
side.
I'm more of me just sticking with what I've been predicting at least since the middle of September. So I gotta at least hold true. I might if I were a betting man and I had to bet my family on this game, I might go the other way, but I'm not about to do that. So I think we're okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just want to also get your input and on this NLCS too. We got some time now, and that is originally what we were going to talk about. We had planned this call already. With sadly the game was going to be on. I was kind of hoping it would end yesterday so we could talk about it, but this kind of worked out in our favor. We could talk about it while the rain delay is going on. But I also want to take a look at this NLCS and kind of coming in. I make the joke on the community Discord that we run on this channel. I'd like someone to send me a screenshot of their bracket and having the Padres versus the Phillies in the NLCS. I don't think I talked to a single person that had that. I'd be shocked if that was you, or you probably photoshopped it. So you see a lot of the Phillies throughout the season, and I know that for the most part they've been this team that's just underperformed year after year. They've always had what seemed like a solid rotation with Wheeler and Nola, who have pretty much anchored the top of it. They've always tried to make additions. The bullpen has always been a big question mark for the Phillies for a number of years, and even now it's probably, That would have to be their biggest weakness as a club. And then you got the Padres, a team that basically scraped in with the Phillies into the wild card. Overshadowed by the Dodgers all season long. I think it was 25, 30 games back by the end of the season, something ridiculous like that. So not a whole lot of credit being given to them, but their rotation has been super solid. And when they match up with the Phillies, I think it's going to be pretty awesome matchup. These teams, I think, match up pretty closely.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think anybody projected
No.
at least the Phillies. I mean, maybe you could make a case for the Padres. I mean, yeah, they beat the Mets, who really struggled offensively. We'll get into that in a bit, though. Dodgers have just had a history of choking. So, I mean, am I going to sit here and say I'm really shocked that the Dodgers
Fair
lost to
enough.
the Padres?
Yeah.
I get it. The Dodgers own the Padres in the regular season, but I don't know what it is. But the Dodgers are just an unwinnable team in the postseason, and I just don't know what it is. Um, and obviously, that's a topic for another day. But Padres, yeah, I mean, interesting to see them playing against Philly. I did not see the Phillies getting far. I mean, I really thought that they would have been eliminated at least by St. Louis, and if not by
Yeah.
Atlanta. But the Phillies, I'll give them I give credit when it's deserved. I think the Phillies are a pretty good team. I mean, they really turned it around. Um, they really turned it around, obviously. I mean, and I think they're very similar to the 2019 Washington Nationals, and I'll go
Yeah.
over that in a second. But, this is a team that, and I'll say it right now, they're very similar to the 2019 Nationals. They started off the season really slow, obviously. I mean, they fired Girardi, hired Thompson, were 10 games under 500
Yeah.
in May. Similar thing with the Nationals. They were like 19 and 37 or something like that. Fought till literally the last 3 days of the regular season, just like the Nationals. Got in as a wild card. Got in as a wild card. We're not projected to do anything. Both teams compare, and here they are now. I think they're, like I said, you can make a very similar case. But this is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, listen, I'll give the Phillies credit when it's due. 1-2 punch of Wheeler Nola isn't horrible. I mean, maybe that back end of the rotation, you could express a little concern. How much do you trust Ranger Suarez? I mean, are you going to keep Zach Eflin in the bullpen? Are you going to try and use him as a long reliever? Like I said, that's not a horrible 1-2 punch. If Nola could be consistent, that's the biggest thing. Wheeler too has had a phenomenal season. No major complaints with him. Great season in my opinion. Pretty good postseason as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, pitching's been doing a decent job. The bullpen, if they could hold down the fort, which they are, the offense has been amazing for them. I mean, unfortunately, maybe Hoskins, Schwarber has been a little cold, but seeing Harper, Castellanos, and some of their more interesting guys, Brandon Marsh, Alec Bohm, really step up. It's moments like that when you need those guys to step up. I get it. Castellanos had a really cruddy season. I mean, but you know what? If he could just break and go off in the postseason, I guarantee you Philly fans are not going to care about what he did
Not at all.
April through September and just care about Red October. So Philly's interesting case. Padres too. Padres are a young team. I mean, I've heard everyone say, "Oh, like 2021, Acuna was out and the Braves won. 2022, Tatis is out, so the Padres will make it." I've heard that. I
Yeah.
think the Padres are a good team. I do think that rotation is pretty elite with Darvish. If Snell could be consistent, we'll have to see how Snell could be. With Musgrove, bullpen isn't really scary. That's one thing I would worry about if I am the Padres is the bullpen. I've never really had a fascination with their bullpen. I think they got decent guys. Most importantly, Josh Hader. He's been pretty dominant so
Yeah.
far the last couple weeks with San Diego. So if he could step up for them, he'll be a big thing. The bats have been pretty good. I mean, Soto and Bell have had a rough go at it since joining the Padres, but are clicking in the postseason if they can get on base and do what they need to do. Machado stays hot. Guys like Profar and Myers, whoever, if they could stay hot,
Yeah.
this could be a really interesting NLCS considering these players have never really faced each other when it comes to pitching. I mean, Darvish has only
Point.
faced Kyle Schwarber in this lineup, and obviously Zach Wheeler has yet to really face any of these guys. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting series.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you raise an interesting one with the 1-2 punch that the Phillies have. It's good for when you have a best of 3 and a best of 5, but now we're moving into where the series are going to be best of 7 for both. Will that show its ugly head for the Phillies, going deep into their rotation. If Wheeler or Nola have a really poor game 1 or 2 and they have to go early to their bullpen to avoid going down 2-0, could see some interesting things develop, and concern for the Phillies. That's my biggest concern with the Phillies being able to come out on this one. I do think give the edge a little bit to the Padres when it comes to that. I think, like you already touched on, both these guys have pretty strong depth when it comes to their lineups. Sure, some of them struggled throughout the season. It's a long season. Sure, Castellanos had a pretty bad season, but he is Castellanos, and he's been in this league for so long. He's delivered for so long, so it's no surprise if he manages to do it in this time. And every single postseason, there seems to be a guy that comes out who wasn't having the best season, but just knows how to play with cold blood and get that timely hit. And maybe that's what it takes for them. Maybe the Padres have that on their side. I think this is going to be a great series. I do think my prediction at this point is that the Padres are going to take it in 6. That's what I'm going with. My concern is with that bullpen, and the fact that they only have the 1-2 punch. And you touched on it, Suarez. He might be able to be that nice third guy. They do technically have some 4 or 5 guys that have shown what it's capable of, and maybe I'll be wrong because I've been picking against both these teams the whole way, my bracket. So I'm gonna have to be wrong again, maybe, or right. One of them is gonna prove me right or wrong for sure.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the rotation, Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
We'll see. Syndergaard was very impressive the last postseason experience. So I mean,
it's there.
Wheeler. When it comes to the Phillies rotation, Wheeler is like obviously the ace, the guy I have confidence in. I could easily, like I said, with Nola and Syndergaard, it's hit or miss. I could easily see them going out there, 8 innings, 2 hits, a run, 10 strikeouts. Boom. I could easily see that for both of those guys. But on the other hand, I could also see them going 3 1/3, 5 hits, 7 runs, 2 strikeouts, and just vomit. So it's really hit or miss. I mean, like I said, Ranger Suarez, Bailey Falter, you'll see. Try and have trust in your lefties. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm also probably going to go Padres. I think they'll take it in 7.
Okay. Yeah, I almost went that way, too. I have trouble picking 7, though. I always tend to go 6 just to...
Okay.
I can see it. So... Oh, wait. The forecast will be right. Okay, I thought they made an announcement of it, whether the game was going to start or not, but no, they didn't. Not quite yet.
Okay.
That is old. But, yeah, so I guess that kind of sums up that. I don't know... What else? we have one guy asking you a question, though. He wanted to know what that piece of paper on your Mets flag was.
Oh, yeah. One of my roommates wrote Lol Mets on there and taped it.
Trolling.
You can kind of see it, but yeah. I guess if you want to talk about the Mets, I have
let's talk about it. You're the Mets expert, so I kind of wanted to come on here. I wasn't able to watch a whole lot of Mets this season, to be honest. Most of the time wasn't a lot of it. There's always baseball on. I try to stay on top of all the teams, but doesn't necessarily mean visual video and stuff like that. I'm watching box scores, but the box scores can only tell so much. I did watch their playoffs, and yeah, like you kind of already touched on a little bit, their offense just. I'll let you take it away though on this.
All right. Yeah, I mean, 3-game set. Mets were obviously favorites to take the series against San Diego.
Yep.
And pretty much my mentality on my last stream was I literally said, take game 1. And I said, if you lose game 1, I have a very hard time seeing this team win the series, with morale, with the atmosphere at Citi Field. Those are 2 big things. And unfortunately, it kind of came into play for game 2. But game 1... I mean, Scherzer, first inning, gives up a 2-run homer, and from there, it just didn't get worse. I mean, you're paying this guy, Max Scherzer, $40 million AV, for him to go 4 2/3, 7 hits, 7 runs, 4 Ks with 4 home runs in 4 2/3 of an inning. I mean, that gives me Garrett Cole wild card vibes from last year. That gives me, obviously Braves fans were chirping quite a lot. Yet Max Fried went what 3 1/3 and gave up 8 runs. Where where
Yeah.
where where was the trash talk for Max Fried? But besides that, Scherzer just flat out looked like garbage. There was no defending him. He looked horrible. His off-speed stuff did not look good. He was way too much plate on his slider, on his fastball, and just the long ball killed him. Padres were able to hit long balls off of him 4 in 4 innings, and that just set the tone for the game. He got taken out. Never would have thought on any day I'd see the Mets fans booing Max Scherzer. I'm not a proponent of encouraging booing, but I think he kind of deserved it. I mean, this is a guy that, Mets fans are saying, who do you start for game one, DeGrom or Scherzer? And boom, you got a taste of your medicine. You saw what happened with DeGrom in game two, but overall, game one, Scherzer really let down.
Were you shocked
offense.
to see that? The difference in starters? I know I was, so that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people made the argument you want to use Scherzer first, considering the postseason experience. Maybe you use Scherzer for game one. If you win game one, then you could use Bassett the next day and then use DeGrom for the NLCS. Comes to the point where, why are you planning ahead? Finish where you are now and then plan ahead. I don't like that mentality of baseball. In the regular season, it's one thing, but in the postseason, focus on the game now. Don't focus on tomorrow. And yeah, just overall, Scherzer looked horrible. And the offense did not do a better job. 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position, stranding 8 on base. You started things off early on, like I said, with Darvish. You are going to have to jump on this dude early to be able to succeed. They got plenty of guys on base early, but they didn't feel like driving them in. I don't know why. They would strike out. They would have a really shallow pop fly to the catcher, and then strike out, 3 outs. At one point, having 3 guys on base with no outs and couldn't do anything. So, yeah, obviously this team was not able to hit with runners in scoring position. And then the first 2 innings, Darvish struggled. He let plenty of guys on base, couldn't capitalize, and then he settled in. So pretty much everything I projected what go wrong went, wrong for them. So game 1 was a disaster. Game 2, they really looked like a much better team. Obviously, game 2, they won this 7-3. Offense clicked from the start, obviously. DeGrom did DeGrom-like things, 6 innings, only 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. So DeGrom really looked good. Obviously, could you have let him gone 7? Didn't really make a difference for the bullpen. The bullpen held down the fort really well. Overall, really impressive outing from DeGrom. Outings like this is what you needed. Would you have much rather seen this in game 1 to set the tone for the rest of the series? Absolutely. But the bats came alive to Blake Snell, obviously. I've said enough. The Mets can struggle with hitting against lefties, but they got the job done. I mean, obviously, everyone pretty much having a hit. Nimmo, 3 hits. Alonso, a hit with 2 walks and a homer. So, I mean, really, everyone did a phenomenal job. The Mets had a total of 9 hits, 7 runs. We had some, obviously, some, home runs by Lindor and Alonso. Some singles by Escobar and Vogelbach and Nimmo. Some doubles by McNeil. So, the team was, doing a good job. Bullpen handled pretty well. Diaz coming into a hold. Ottavino, Lugo. Once again, really impressive start. This is the Mets that we've seen all season. And then you go to game 3, and, you were hoping it's a do or die, go home. And Chris Bassett with by far, once again, one of his worst outings that we've seen from him. 4 innings, obviously, in those 4 innings, 3 runs, 3 hits. Which isn't horrible, but the pitch count was at like 60. So, I mean, how much longer can you ride with that? And then that was really it for the rest of the game. I mean, Buck Showalter with, once again, horrible bullpen management, putting in, really mixing around this bullpen too much. Obviously, Michael Givens, Drew Smith, guys that are capable of giving up the long ball in a do-or-die situation. Yeah, I mean, pitching, Showalter really struggled with the bullpen this game and this series. Mets lost at 6-0. And team could not hit. They had 1 hit. Had a no-hitter in the 6th inning. Alonso got a base hit, and that was literally it. So when it comes to this series, I blame three things. Obviously, the starting pitching. Scherzer and Bassett played like garbage in this and played like garbage in the Atlanta series. So very disappointed in those 2 guys. Yeah. Bats fell asleep, obviously. I mean, having guys like Vogelbach in the bottom end of the order really struggled. They couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. Buck Showalter, I mean, all about it as a Blue Jays fan. A lot of 2016 Orioles vibes with, Zach Britton. Just not having the sense of urgency to pull a guy out or pulling him out too late. Just an overall, an unfortunate way to go home.
Yeah,
You know, just to say this, people saying the Mets collapsed, and that really drives me nuts.
I
Because the
agree.
same people that are saying that the Braves collapsed because they had the same record as the Mets and they got eliminated in the first round. Did the Dodgers collapse? They had 111 wins. They got eliminated in the first round. Did they collapse? It's baseball. It happens. The postseason is a completely different. You know, really can't use much of an analysis from the regular season to the postseason because it's so different.
Yeah, it
But
bothers
Mets
me that
lost,
people
and
would say that because like the Boo Birds come out like crazy with they'll just find that thing. I guess maybe it's just the way Mets fans might react to those kind of things. I don't know. It's probably like that. If the Yankees were to go out to the Guardians, we'd probably see the same kind of thing. But I agree. Is it really a collapse? The 600 team still down the stretch. They had a super hot start, but then they still played fairly good enough to be a
yeah,
playoff team. They would have been a wild card team had they played the way they did from June on the whole season. Would have still been a wild card team. The 3 game series I sometimes don't like. I really don't like it personally as a playoff kind of format. I understand why they do it. They expanded the whole playoff format, but I do think that kind of hurts the Mets because if you do have one bad outing like you did with Scherzer, and I don't like maybe he played bad, but I think at the end of the day in baseball you're gonna have that. You can't stop it. Scherzer has those outings once in a while. Every starter has those outings once in a while. You can't be on 24/7. So that's kind of the downside to the 3 game set. And it's kind of unfortunate, really.
by far one of the worst times to have a really
Yeah,
bad outing. And
yeah,
no, listen, I mean, it's crazy because everyone, and I've said it, I'm sure you've mentioned it, everyone has said that Mets 1-2-3 punch in the postseason is going to be nuts. And they just bombed it. I mean, DeGrom did decent. It was that Brave series. And this is what I say. When people say, how did the Mets season end? Ended when they got swept by the
yep,
Cubs. Ended when they lost 2 or 3 against the Nationals in September. You needed to win one more game. One more game, and you would have played the Phillies in the NLDS, a team that the Mets have demolished in the regular season, 14-5. Like I said, I don't like to use
yeah.
the
It doesn't
whole, oh,
matter
they
because the
played
Dodgers
against
had
them.
the same record against the Padres.
Yeah, and like I hate to use that
Yeah,
analogy,
no, for
but
sure.
the Mets have had really good numbers when it came to Philly. Obviously, would have played them at City
They
Field, so home
match up
field
better, yeah,
advantage.
than they would have against
Yeah,
the
I think it's
Padres.
it's an interesting, better matchup. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's unfortunate this is the way things ended. I mean, that Braves series last week determined the division. You needed to win one of those games, and it would have been the division crown, and
Yeah,
have the extra couple days off. And we'll see. Off season, have some interesting conversations, interesting moves, and we'll be back in April to see Alonso hit some homers and Neil with some hits and some
and we'll see some Mets
Grom
Blue
strikeouts.
Jays World Series next year. That's for sure. That's what I'm feeling.
Book it, book it, man.
For sure, for sure. All right, well, I appreciate that. Giving that a little bit of a rundown for maybe some people weren't so in tune with that specific series. I know for me, I was holding up on the Blue Jays series, and I could probably talk so much about that one game forever. Just the collapse that was, but I'll save that for my another day myself. But who is your favorite baseball player? I've got Gio Flores. Welcome to the chat. Tommy Crowley, XJ Teals out there. Jed Carson, Urza. We got about 5 people out there. They're asking what your favorite baseball players are.
My favorite baseball player. I mean, I think right now has to be Pete Alonso. I think I've established that plenty of times. Big Pete Alonso guy.
Yeah,
He is by far my favorite player actively. In terms of overall, I'd probably say David Wright. I mean, like maybe a lot of the older generations could say like Dom Seaver. Maybe if I was born, I don't know, 5 years before I was like Piazza, but just because I never really I saw like the tail end of Piazza's career. Like I didn't see him in like his 90s, uh, you know, 2000 exactly prime. I was born '02. Didn't really get
yeah,
into it until he was really, kind of retired and, his last year. So I'd probably say Wright overall because I, witnessed him. He came up 2004 and remember going to the last couple games at Shea and City Field and watching him play. But yeah, now it'd probably be Alonso.
Yeah, for me, like my favorite player is it's actually Nolan Arenado. I love watching him play. Good defensive player. I'm a fanboy for people that came out of Coors during the era where he was there with Story, Blackman. That I just liked watching the home run ball. A lot of it had to do with I was playing a lot of daily fantasy too at the time. So just watching, I watched a lot of Coors, watched him. I enjoy watching his style and just the way he kind of carries himself. My favorite Blue Jay right now has got to be George Springer. I just like how he plays. I like that he's that leadoff guy that just can hit some bombs. And he plays hard all the time. Always leaves it all out there. So I really respect that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for me. When I was growing up, was it Otis Nixon was my favorite player. I don't know if you'll know who that is, but I think he played for 10 different teams in his career, but he was a Blue Jay when I first started watching with my grandpa, and he was stealing bases like it was going out of style. I think he's probably one of the league leaders of all time with stolen bases. So that was my guy that got me into baseball in the first place and kind of started to understand, man, that there's a big difference in someone that can steal bases. So that was it for me. Fun fact.
Yeah, stolen bases are unfortunately not as common, but who knows?
Yeah.
MLB's making the bases bigger, so maybe that'll
Yeah, I do
encourage some
like Trey
guys to
Turner
steal
too.
more.
Watching him, he's probably one of my favorite players too. Trey Turner, got to give him a shout out for that swag slide he did a couple years ago.
Yeah, I like him. He's a incredible athlete.
Yeah. So yeah, listen. I said I'd keep this around 45 to an hour. I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on, or just kind of counting down the
Um,
time now to the game five. I'm starting to think we might not see it today. It's starting to get pretty late.
um, yeah, I mean, right now I'm not sure what the agenda is for the game. Obviously, this is unfortunate. Obviously, you have both Savali and Kion, training and working out,
Yep.
and then they get postponed with this. So, I mean, are they gonna go with that bullpen game, or are they gonna um try and do something?
I would figure
Um,
that they have some sort of projection. Like they must know when the targeted time to start is for this game because they got such high caliber. But that's what has me surprised actually is because normally they have by now, hey, we're gonna try and start at this time. It seems to be a window in the weather, but we haven't even seen that. That's what's having me start to wonder if they're gonna postpone it till tomorrow, which would
that
mean
would, yeah,
no
that'd be
rest.
tough.
It'd be no rest for them and the Astros.
And the NLCS is tomorrow, so I mean, it's like that would, and that's so unfortunate. And that's what I really hate about this postseason schedule. Like they should really have an extra day in between just in case something like this happens. I mean, it's October. I mean, I live in the South in Florida, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of stadiums are not domes or roofs. I mean, we're not talking the Marlins or Rays or Blue Jays. We're talking about the Yankees and Guardians who it could rain, snow, whatever. So, yeah, hopefully they try and figure that out. But yeah, tomorrow is not tomorrow, but the 19th. What is that? That's Wednesday. Would be the start of the ALCS in
Yep.
Houston. So, they're gonna need to figure that out. Obviously, tomorrow is the NLCS start, but no relevance with Yankees and Guardians, unless you have a preference on who you'd want them to play. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm not sure how they're gonna focus it if
Yeah.
they the bullpen game tonight, but that'll be something we'll have to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think at the end of the day, if they have to delay this one and then for whatever reason they go back to back game five and then game one, that's starting to be a big advantage for the Astros. Let alone they
Yeah,
already have all this extra rest because they went for the clean sweep. Whole other interesting 18 inning game in itself.
I would be.
Yep. All right, dude. How
We'll
about
see
you
that.
just take us away? Like, what are your like future plans for your channel? Let us like, what do you kind of see yourself doing with this channel? Are you gonna grow it, or are you gonna pivot, or are you gonna keep mats, or kind of what are your plans for the future? And then we'll kind of just wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, right now, obviously, like I said, the off season's here, so regular season's in the books, and like I said, that was kind of my regular season
Yep.
agenda. The live streams in between each series to summarize and preview them. But now the postseason's here. Usually regular season I do 2, 3 a week. maybe I'll do one, maybe two. Once like the winter meetings and free agent frenzy starts, maybe I'll do some videos and some possibility free agent signings, live streams going over that. Like I said, like October, like more like November, like there's really not much to talk about.
Yeah.
Winter meeting starts like December, so usually like January, February, really good with free agency, considering there's some decent guys on the market this season. Judge, Correa opted out of his contract. So yeah, good, good shortstop class. So we'll see. I'll definitely be recapping that. Maybe I'll do some interesting documentary type videos. Like how elite Jeff McNeil is as a contact hitter. Why is that?
Yeah.
Maybe some interesting documentary types. So like I said, I'm planning it day by day. If I get an idea, hey, maybe I'll make a video about it. I haven't been doing a whole lot of videos, a lot more live stream oriented,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna try and change that a little bit in the regular or in the off season. So yeah, like I said, super excited to be continuing to grind in the off season, and yeah, LFGM.
Yeah. Let's go, Mets. All right. That's it for me, too, I guess. And we'll see you guys out there for that next video.
You guys.